I'm reassured by what you have said. I have to say that. And I think it's also very important that we focus on that statement that we hear every day about balanced regional development, every plan, but it's very, very rarely implemented in terms of the West North West. Minister, you recently announced an extra 4 stations on the Lewis line net, I think a few hundred million, but what's a few hundred million up in Dublin? You also announced the electrification of the line out to Maynooth, not a few bob. You announced that we're going to look at high-speed rail from Dublin to Belfast, Dublin to Cork, Dublin to Limerick, nothing for the west of Ireland. Minister, I think we could call this the Lazarus line. Not Lazarus, but the guy that was at the gate and couldn't get the food. Could you drop a few bob our way? Now, when you look at the figures, you see that Athenry is doing very well because there's a reasonable frequency of trains in the morning into town. In other words, a huge commuter demand. The population of Tuam is twice that. Athenry. The population of Castlebar is 3 times it. There are plenty of people in these towns that commute to Galway. Yes, you can make it quicker to about 10 miles from Galway in the morning by car, but it's the last 3, 4, 5, 6 miles, depending on the morning, that hold you up. That's where train scores, as you know. Minister, it's time for decisions, not for talk, and we're just looking for a few bob for the west of Ireland.
Minister, please.
All those investments in public transport in Dublin make sense, and they have to make sense. You can't proceed unless you've got a real good business case. And we need the same in terms of rail investment in the west. And the reason I mentioned that freight issue, and I mentioned it in various meetings I've had with various deputies, is because if we try and win this project on the basis of it being a commuting route from Tuam or Claremorris into Galway, the numbers will be very difficult to argue to win. But if you look at it in a bigger, wider strategic context of economic development, and particularly passenger rail services coming on the back, I believe, of the real key strategic benefit from this, which will be an industrial rail freight capability which will bring employment and manufacturing to this region, which has clean power, clean water, highly skilled manufacturing workforce. That's when it starts to make sense. I'll have to be honest, none of the reports to date, in my mind, are looking at it in that broader context. No one has really asked a big 20, 30-year industrial development question around what we need to do in the Northwest. And I think that's good for the whole country. That's not just good for the people of the West. That brings income, that brings tax base, that brings balanced regional development. So that's not a Dublin versus anyone versus. That makes logical industrial development policy sense to me. It means the IDA can go abroad to say, if you want really high quality, guaranteed, low cost energy, high quality water supplies, really good workforce, with rail connectivity to an international port that allows you to ship your goods anywhere around the world, and you have a choice, you can go to Foynes or you could go down to Waterford, because this actually, as part of a spine, gives you that western spine right the way. And the need for that is shown by the fact that I understand, and this is our questions we need to ask, are there constraints at the moment on the Ballina-Dublin-Waterford rail freight services? And I think there may be. It's those questions we need to ask to make the business case for a national rail freight strategy. Now, some people say, and the reports are saying, that rail freight won't work in Ireland. I don't believe, I question that, and I question it if you put it in a wider 30, 40-year climate context. Where are we going to go? Do we want large-scale manufacturing? I think we do. We're good at it. We've done it before. We did it in Asahi. We do it in Ballina. Why not in Castlebar or in Westport or in all the other stations along that line, including Tuam or Athenry? Tuam used to have an industrial rail freight-based system on this. We've seen it work in Tuam. That will make sense more than the Tuam commuting route, because, to be honest, you can do a bus route from Tuam into Galway that will give you equally good service. So it's the rail freight one I think wins the case here. I think we need to look at it.
Thank you, Minister.